thank you for having me here. So my research is actually in cognition. Even though I also do research in computer science, today I choose to represent my research in how to use AI to understand human perception. So the core research project in my lab studies how do we perceive materials around us. So we live in the world of materials, like they are delicious, they are pretty, they're food we eat, they're clothes we wear, they're toys, they're useful, they're functional. So they're everywhere. They're high-dimensional image space. Okay. So upon seeing a stimuli like these materials, the brain actually interprets the same properties. Instead of estimating the physical ground truths, such as reflectance or color, we actually generate the interpretation. And then these perceptual outcome would guide several tasks, such as object recognition, knowing whether it is sushi, property estimation, whether it is soft or hard, and affordance assessment, such as if you drop any of these objects, will they fall? Also, we verbally describe what we see in order to communicate. So material perception is a process of perceiving and interpreting the physical world through sensory experiences to perform diverse tasks. Today, I'm going to introduce a case, using case, part of my student who just defended his PhD and is his thesis topic, is how do we use AI to explore and understand latent representation of human material perception. To start, we use these images of soap as an example. So soap are readily available. You can buy them everywhere, and it has diverse appearances. So any of these, each one of these images have a physical origin. They have different shape, lighting, intrinsic material properties, and color, all contributing to their diverse appearance. When humans see them, you could ask, which one is more translucent, see-through? So how do we learn a representation of these images? So instead of asking human observer to label soap, if you ask them to label, they only give you soap. Soap 1, soap 2, soap 3. What we wanted to understand is how do they represent this diverse perceptual experience? So instead, we use unsupervised learning to learn the statistical structure of material appearances under diverse context. How do we do that? So we train the model to generate images of soaps by giving lots of training photographs. The photographs are taken by my students' bedroom of 60 diverse soaps of different viewpoints, color, lighting. And we're going to train a model to generate soaps. On the right-hand side are AI-generated soap, just like the photographs. To achieve this, we use a model a little bit outdated because this work was a few years old, called stylized generative adversarial network. So the model is a little bit outdated, but has a great potential to interpretable, better than the current diffusion model. So that's why it was very useful here. So it has multiple layers to represent multiple scales. As you know, natural images have multiple scale. My dress, you can see from far away. If I have any white hair, you cannot see until you're using you're getting very too close to me. So I just want to emphasize, in order to synthesize a realistic image, you need a representation that also has multiple scale. So this is a multi-scale generator. So then, having this generator, we can give an input latent code, which is a noisy images, and then we train the neural network called GAN, basically has a generator and a discriminator. The generator basically generated images through this multiple scale generator of different soaps. The discriminator compared the generated samples with the real world samples, and together they fight with each other and compute some loss function. And then, based on that, we got simulated, generated images, look just like the real world images. But that's not enough. In order to really explore this latent representation, we need to map a real photo through an encoder to a latent representation on one-on-one mapping. This mapping is very important if we were going to discard the real photos, but walk in the latent representation. To achieve this, we train another multi-scale neural network to encode a real photos through a multiple scale representation and use the freeze trained StyleGAN from the large data set to produce a reconstructed soap, look like exactly like the real photo. Not exactly, but good enough. We did test that humans cannot tell the difference. So given this encoder, now we can project real photos into the latent code, 2 different photos of 2 different type of soap. On the left is glycerin soap, on the right is a milky soap. And then using linear morphing, linear interpretation to explore what does latent space mean. So for example, here, if I combine the latent code weights, the generator weights of the generator between the glycerin yellow soap to the purple opaque soap, we can create different morphs. So this allows us to walk you through this latent representation. For example, if we combine all the weights and linear combine them from the source and the target, we got images, the sequence like this. However, the advantage of StyleGAN is it allows us to only manipulate the early layers, which control the coarse spatial scale, that we can see the soap from left to right keep the material and color the same, but only vary the shape. If you manipulate the middle layers, on the other hand, we can create this material, which is translucency, which is what we care about, from glycerin, like translucent to opaque. Lastly, if you only morph on the last layers, the final layer, the fine structure, you got change only in color, but shape and the material is the same. So now we generated images, we learn latent code. How do we connect to perception? So we ask human observers to rate these different perceptual attributes, and we use another supervised learning. This is very easy to separate in each of the latent code layer a boundary between opaque and translucent soaps. And then we calculate the distance of any arbitrary soap to see how far away it is from perpendicular distance. And that is our model prediction. Somebody asked, how do we compare, make model do prediction? This is one way. So then we calculate on the axis, the model prediction, the y-axis, the human perception, and we find out the middle layer of the StyleGAN highly correlate with human perception, but not the other layers. This can be verified, but the simple manipulation, we can actually move the milky soap perpendicular to the decision boundary and basically achieve material editing from a milky to glycerin. This is all AI generated, just to remind you. And we can also visualize this neural network to see how this is established in this middle layer. I'll skip a couple of slides. We can also expand it to rock, squishy toy, morphing between different materials to create molded cheese appearance, and then use these diverse images to study how vision is related to language. If you're interested, you can ask me. We found some disparity between visual description and visual similarity, compare human similarity judgment with several pre-trained models, including perceptual metric, vision-only model, and vision language model. We found vision language model better captures. Finally, my group also do some fabrication. We created a camera rig to capture 3D multiple views of an object. Then we can create a virtual apple. This need to be, so this apple is virtual. You can project in VR, in AR, zoom in, zoom out. It's like a very popular in Amazon shopping website. So we want to use it for vision research. So I want to conclude my talk to say, I hope I persuade you, it's possible to use Gen AI to study cognition. And then I want to thank my group and my funding resources. Thank you. I know it's a little over time. Yeah.
So most of the images that you use, they like a close-up. They seem like the background of the images are very nice. Why is that? Like the
background of images.
Like I mean, the images of the soaps are.
Yeah.
There's no background noise almost.
First of all, they are sort of photographed under controlled lighting and controlled surfaces. They're like only basically 2 surfaces. Training data from the keynote speech, you probably know the training data is very important, so that's why. But nowadays with stable diffusion, you can actually use our generated soap to just a few questions to prompt Google VO to generate similar images and cast them in painting them into different contexts. So this is the artifacts of the training or consequence. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.